So now that we're recording, I think we're all ready to go. So starting just with a quick icebreaker, two truths and a lie. We've got just 15 minutes here, so that's about 60 seconds a person. And so very briefly, we're going to ask everybody to tell two truths about themselves and one lie in any order. And then if everyone can go to the bottom of their Zoom window and pull up the participants window, you'll see a button that says participants. It's got two little people on it. If you click on that, you'll see at the bottom there's some options for yes or no, or go slower or go faster. But we really care about the yes and no, because that's how we're going to get everyone's opinions on which ones are truths and which ones are lies. So starting with me, I'll read you my three things. One is that I was nearly eaten by a turkey when I was younger. The second is that I've seen 50% of the remaining space shuttles in the world. And the third is that I speak fluent French. So if everyone could click yes or no on my turkey fact, whether that was the false one. Awesome. It seems we're sort of undecided on the turkey fact. And now a quick yes or no poll on the space shuttle fact. Seems like most people think that's true. And then a quick yes or no poll on the fluent French fact. That one also seems about 50-50 split, but with a name like Souter, you should have guessed that I speak terrible French. So moving on, Trinity, would you like to tell us two truths and a lie about yourself?
Absolutely. So fact number one, I'm lactose intolerant. It runs in the family. Fact number two, I love cheese. Fact number three, my favorite food is potatoes and curry. So fact number one, I'm lactose intolerant. All right. Fact number two, I love cheese. And fact number three, I love curry and potatoes, or they are my favorite foods. Okay. So the falsehood was actually, I'm not lactose intolerant. A lot of my family is, but I am not. And I'd like to pass that on to Rachel. Rachel, you're muted.
My bad. Okay, so fact number one, I have a relative who is revolutionary. Fact number two, I grew up on a reservation. Fact number three, I really like milk. I don't know where I'm supposed to see the responses.
Yeah, if you just open up the little participants window. But who thinks, this might go a little bit faster if we just raise our hands. Who thinks fact number one is the falsehood? Who thinks it's fact number two? And raise your hands if fact number three is false.
Okay, yeah, it was the last one. I'm really bad at lying, but yeah. I guess I'll pass this on to Kieran.
Hello. Okay, so two truths and a lie. So I have been to over 15 countries. Haley Baldwin took a picture of me and Justin Bieber, and I have won $45,000 in the lottery. So who thinks that I have been to over 15 countries? I guess who thinks I haven't been to over 15 countries? Okay, so you trust me on that one. Who thinks that Haley Baldwin has not taken a photo of me and Justin Bieber? Okay, and who thinks that I have not won $45,000 in the lottery? I don't have money. That is, unfortunately, that is the truth. I have not one, sorry.
Thank you, Sharon.
Lucas, would you like to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So, my first fact is that I currently have an unpaid parking ticket. The second is that I can only breathe through one nostril. And the third is that I have a twin sister. So who thinks I don't have any unpaid parking tickets? All right, and who thinks I can breathe through more than one nostril? And who thinks I don't have a twin sister? Well, I don't have any unpaid parking tickets because I'm very responsible with, where I drive and where I park, and I encourage you guys to be as well.
Thank you, Lucas. Before we move on to our wonderful flat fellows, Kaiko, did you have 2 truths and a lie to share?
Me? I'm still thinking of mine.
No worries. Just before we move on to the flat fellows, Kaiko, did you have 2 truths and a lie for you to share?
I didn't have, but I can come up with. Okay, number 1, I'm vegetarian. Number 2, I only sleep 4 hours a day. Number 3, I drink 5 cups of coffee. We think number 1, I'm vegetarian is true. Number 2, I only sleep 4 hours. Number 3, drink 5 cups a day, a cup of coffee. False is number 2. I sleep 7-8 hours a day or more sometimes.
That's good. Yeah, 4 hours doesn't seem like enough. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to share their 2 truths and a lie?
Nicola?
Yeah, hi. Okay, here are my 2 truths and a lie. I've been to England twice. I can speak Spanish as well as French. And I have a cat and a dog who don't get along. So who thinks number 1 is a lie? That I've been to England twice. Okay. Who doesn't think that I can speak both Spanish and French? Okay. Who thinks I don't have a cat and a dog that don't get along? Okay, the second one was a lie. I can speak French, but not Spanish. The only Spanish I know is I love you.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Is there anyone who would like to go next?
Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So the first one is I live with a single parent. The second fact is I've been to Italy and Spain. And the third fact is I have 2 dogs. So who thinks I live with a single parent? Oh, yeah, I actually live with a single parent. That's true. And who thinks I've been to Italy and Spain? That's also true. And who thinks I have 2 dogs? I actually don't have 2 dogs. I don't have any pets at all. But I actually want one. I want like Any dog that's big, I like big dogs.
Big dogs are great. David, would you like to pass on to whoever you'd want to go next? And just choose-
Sure. How about Sophia?
Sure. Okay. So number one, my favorite kind of music is classical music. Number two, I have a pet rabbit. And number three, my favorite drink is bubble tea. So who thinks that my favorite music is not classical music? Okay. Who thinks I don't have a pet rabbit? And who thinks my favorite drink is not bubble tea? Okay, yeah, I don't like bubble tea. So I will pass it on to Alice.
I don't really know. Okay. I've been to more than 5 countries. I have a brother, and I almost failed French last year. Okay, you think the first one is true? Okay, who think the? Wait, are we supposed to ask like which one is false? Like, which one? Okay. Who think the first one is false? Okay, who think the second one is false? Who think the third one is false? Actually, like I actually almost failed French. Like it's really low last year. Like it's like 70 something. Like almost like failing. Okay. Let's move on to Maya.
Okay, so first thing is I was supposed to go to Japan during spring break, but because of coronavirus, I didn't end up going. Second, my favorite TV show is The Office. And third, my favorite color is purple. So who thinks that I wasn't supposed to go to Japan during spring break? Who thinks my favorite TV show is not The Office? And who thinks my favorite color is not purple? The first one was a lie. I was supposed to go to Europe, not Japan during spring break. I guess I'll pass it on to Nayu.
Okay. Number one, I read Harry Potter more than 11 times. Fact number two, I love white chocolate. Fact number three, I love all animals. Sorry, that one was a really bad one. Okay. Okay, who thinks the first one was a lie? Who thinks the second one was a lie? Who thinks the third one was a lie? I hate white chocolate. So, okay, who hasn't gone yet? Marina, is that how you pronounce your name? Okay.
Okay, so the first one is in grade 7. I got my first pair of Vans shoes, and I wore them so much that I actually wore out the sole, and I was walking with 2 holes in my shoes, but I love them so much. The second one is that I get extremely excited when I see tires on the side of the highway, and I beg my parents to stop, but they won't let me do that. And the third one is I love the color green. So who thinks that I did not wear out my shoes in grade 7? Okay. Who thinks that I do not get excited about finding tires on the highway, wanting to use them for an art project? Okay. And who thinks that I do not like the color green? Yeah, that's very true. So I do not like the color green, but yes, I wore out my shoes, and I also get very excited about abandoned tires. Yeah. Okay, I'll pass on to who hasn't gone yet?
Zara.
Zara, I'll pass it on to you. Okay.
Okay. So the first one, I've lived abroad almost my whole life, well, abroad from the United States. I can only speak English, and I have 3 siblings. So who thinks I haven't lived abroad almost my whole life? Who thinks I can I can speak lots of I can not only speak English? And who thinks I do not have 3 siblings? So I do not have 3 siblings. Yeah. I would like to pass it on to who hasn't gone. Okay, you can go then. I pass on to you.
The first fact is I'm born on Christmas Eve. The second one is I just got my license. The third one is I have more than 50 cousins. So yeah. Who thinks the first one is not true? Who thinks the second one is not true? Okay. Who thinks the last one's not true? Yeah, that's right. The second one is not true.
Well, thank you for sharing, everybody. Alex, she's having a couple of technical difficulties, so she won't be able to participate just in this, but we would really like to thank her for being here. But yeah, thank you everybody for sharing. That was really nice. I think at least I know all of you a bit more now. And I think Trinity has a couple of things to talk about with regards to system change. Oops, Trinity, I think you're muted.
My bad. I assume most of you have watched the systems change vid, but I'm gonna go over a few highlights just in case. And I'm gonna screen share. Sorry. Okay, so this is the very abridged version of the systems change video. Real quick. So this diagram explains system change. An individual pushes for change in the collective while the collective imparts change on that individual. And if the individual is strategic or persistent enough, the collective will turn towards them. And when this happens, the collective must come together with other collectives to work for change. There's no way to start to make a plan for change, but most people agree that the first step of innovation is research. We need to recognize our strengths and limitations in resources and relationships, but also those of core practices and activities. Strategic learning is a technique that makes research a part of development of the strategy. We learn more about ourselves and the challenge, and the goal is to make the learning as robust and systematic as possible. Finally, another consideration for systems change is the foundations. There are roughly 3 levels: explicit, semi-explicit, and implicit, and there are 6 conditions of change. By using all 3 levels as a foundation, your systems change movement should be sustainable. So those were kind of just the parts I wanted to highlight before we move into the discussion section of the session.
Yeah. So just in the couple of minutes we have left before it's time for one of our course leaders to start their discussion, we wanted to just very briefly ask everyone if you could unmute and talk about if the diagram of system change with the 2 loops is applicable to every instance of systems change. What do you guys think? Do you think that this diagram, this system, is applicable everywhere, or is it maybe more limited?
I mean, there might be like collectives within a collective if you wanted to like expand on the diagram.
Oh, thank you.
Good point. We can move on from this question.
Yeah, thank you, Sophia. That's a very good point. And then we were also just wondering, in research, what is the best way to collect information? And is there any kind of research that's more valid than another? So is like collecting statistics more or less valuable than introducing people for anecdotal evidence, or is all research equal?
Feel free to just unmute if you want to speak. I think at this point, there's no need to raise hands.
I would say that all research is valid. I think that depending on what you're trying to do, some, types of research will work a lot better. In terms of if you want to collect large health data, probably taking larger statistical samples would give for a wider range of results. Whereas if you're looking for more of a locally based or kind of opinions based or social, someone's own life, how their life has gone out, maybe more of like a qualitative or interview based, kind of really talking to someone and diving deep into the basis of things might be more effective. But everything, I think, is a valid way to collect information. Maybe not everything, but what you described is a valid way.
Thank you, Karen. That's very insightful. Unfortunately, we've sort of come up against the end of our time, but just to leave you with something to think about, we would really like it if, after we're done here, if you took a moment to just sort of think about the ways that system change can occur in our lives, and then also consider some plans of actions for system changes. System changes like sustainability, Indigenous sovereignty, Black Lives Matter. And we'd actually like to give you a teensy tiny little piece of homework, and that is to sort of create an imaginary timeline for system change. This is a really broad scope assignment. It's not, we don't need anything amazing. And this can be a system change that's real or imagined for yourself or for society as a whole, although as we've seen, those two are very closely linked, and incorporates maybe some ideas that you learned from Trinity's video. You can also use some of your own research if you feel like it. That's absolutely optional. And then we want you to remember that when you're doing this, planning and creating stuff like timelines is an important skill, not only in creating systems change, but also as a leader and as an artist. Michelangelo didn't paint the Sistine Chapel in one day, and Martin Luther King Jr. didn't get the civil.
I am assuming what Eric meant to say was the civil rights movement was not finished in one day. And on that note, if you have any questions or anything, questions about Canvas or Zoom, please feel free to contact Eric. He's our tech guy. So thanks for that, Eric.
Yeah.
And now I think we're moving on to Flap 101. So that's Lucas's time to speak.
So I just want to get a gauge of what you guys have managed to complete in the last couple of days. How many of you guys have done module 1, like everything in module 1? So has anyone started on module 2 yet? All right. Okay. So have you guys watched the video at least? What did you think of it?
I like the video.
Oh, appreciate
It
it.
explained a lot.
All right, cool. Okay, so like I said, what I want you guys to take away is just how free you guys are to explore all sorts of mediums. We're not limiting your creative talents to just writing. And I did get a couple submissions for outlines, and we got most of them were want to explore their topics with features, which is great. I love long features. That's what I do for a living. But yeah, we also got, pitches for doing visual art and photography, and that's great too. I want you guys really to think about, like what makes a medium good for the social issue that you're pursuing, right? And I think there's such a rich diversity of the sensory experience involved with most social issues, we got some submissions about like civil rights. So what does civil rights look like? What does it feel like? What do the people being oppressed in society sort of go through, and try to get their sensory experience. And it's not always easy to just do it through writing alone. So that's why I encourage you guys to think about alternative mediums. How many of you guys have interviewed anyone before? Okay, so
Hi. Okay, so I'm chiming in on my phone. First of all,
yeah.
I have interviewed someone before, but also a couple of us are having trouble. We can't access module 1. It says page not found.
Where are you going for module 1?
I open Flap 101 and I hit intro to journalism and it says access denied. You don't have access to view this resource.
That should be fixed. I believe I just fixed it right now. So
It was page not found and now it's access denied. So I guess that's kind of a fix in that it exists now, but I can't. It exists now, but I can't open it.
Yeah, I was having the same issue as Alex there as well.
Have you tried going like on the left side, clicking on module? Is it there if you do that?
Just says there's nothing there for me.
Yeah, for me, it now says module 1. When I click module 1, it's access denied instead of page not found, which I guess is a step in the right direction, but I still can't do it.
Yeah, give it one more try right now.
Okay. Oh yeah, access denied now, so that's a change.
Yep, it's still access denied for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll take a look at it after our video today, and you should have access soon. I'll send you guys all an email to let you know when it's fixed.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the discussions that we were supposed to have today were supposed to be on modules 1 and 2. So that's okay. We'll try to get by without you guys having done them. So we'll try to make it a little more collaborative in nature. So module 2 is all about sort of the language that we use, right? So have you guys come across any like problematic language? Can you think of any examples of some problematic language that you've read or that you've heard or anything like that? All right, okay. How do you feel about the word Aboriginal? Why? What's the reason for the handshake?
It's kind of like, well, it's not like the worst term you could use for indigenous people, but then again, it's not really the best. So I'm not offended if someone says Aboriginal, but at the same time, it's like, well, there's a better term for indigenous people.
Why do you think indigenous is better than Aboriginal?
Because like I can't really explain it. It's just the fact that I hear other indigenous people call themselves indigenous, so it sounds better than like just calling them by a term they use for themselves rather than just using one that other people, non-indigenous people use for indigenous people.
Yeah, and that's totally right. And as a magazine, as a collective, we have to sort of come up with the words we want to use to describe certain things, right? Have you guys used or heard people use the term Latinx? Can I get a show of hands? Who uses Latinx if you're doing something, if you would write about that topic? Who would use that term? Well, Sophia, you nodded, right? You've heard it before,
I've
but
seen,
you wouldn't
yeah,
use
someone
it?
else use it, but like
Mhm.
I haven't used it.
So do you know what you would use? Have you thought about it?
I don't know what like exactly the term refers
Right.
to.
Well, so Latinx refers to so the word before used to be Latinos, right? But some people thought that the word Latinos is sort of exclusionary, right? Because there's a difference between a Latino and a Latina, right? And to call the entire group Latinos excludes a large population of the people that belong to that group. So that's why the words like Latinx come up, and it's a very new word that traditional journalists will have no idea how to deal with. And that's why, as young people, like we're all young people, we need to guide that ship, because at the end of the day, we're more in touch with what it means to be, socially appropriate in our modern climate, right? So I want you guys to really think about the words we use to characterize people. I'll give you guys another example. How do you feel about the term African American as opposed to Black? Why do you feel iffy on it though?
Well, in context, African American does sound better than Black in a way.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's better than just like it's better than just saying like it's really hard to explain.
Sort of like you're reducing somebody to their color.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, thank you for that. I couldn't find the
Yeah.
word.
So yeah, and that's what some journalists think today. And the way that we use the word Black has really changed over the years. And if you guys get access to module 2, I do go over it in the video. So try to pay attention to that part. But before this year, before 2020, it was common in journalism to use the word Black to refer to Black people and not capitalize the word Black, right? Even though, you capitalize Asian, you capitalize Hispanic, you wouldn't capitalize Black. And why is that, right? And when you think about like the words you use, you also have to think about the systemic racism that could possibly be embedded into the word you use, right? And so that's really what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully, if we have enough time, in our next live session, we can try to compile a list of words we feel comfortable using and the words we don't, right? So I encourage you guys to, when this live session is over, think about words you wouldn't use in conversation and why you wouldn't use them. If you saw that a magazine just said LGBT, how would you feel about that? Yeah.
Well, LGBTQ stands for, well, L stands for lesbian, B stands for bi, G stands for, hold on, LG, yeah, gay, and then, but they didn't add the plus because there's a lot more different sexual orientations and genders that are included in the LGBTQ plus
Right.
community. So yeah, it just sounds like you're just saying, oh, only those terms can be used or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Right. And, you know, if, for example, words we use, even if it's not our intention. And so if you really want to produce a quality piece of journalism, you really have to try your best to think about all the possible implications in the words you use. You know, at the same time, we would never want to encroach upon your freedom of speech, right? But there are reasons not to use certain terms, and there are reasons to use certain terms. And we'll go a lot deeper into some next live session. I really hope you guys get a chance to check out Module 2. It really sets the groundwork for what we're about to do. Can anybody else think of any words that make them uncomfortable? Yeah.
I'm biracial, but like I've heard people use the term mixed before,
Mhm.
as to say like mixed race, but saying mixed just sounds like wrong in a way because like I can't really explain it. It's just like biracial is like, oh yeah, I am from two different ethnical backgrounds, but mixed sounds like it just sounds like a very like old-fashioned way of saying this person is from two different like nationalities that are like mixed together. Sounds weird.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
the term biracial is a lot better.
Yeah. And I think maybe the reason it does sound weird is because, you know, humans can't mix, right? We're not like eggs and flour. You know, you can't mix a human. And so using the word mix, using a noun, the verb mix, which is not commonly used for people to describe people, sort of takes some humanity out of the person you're describing, right? And I didn't even know that. I might have described a biracial person as mixed, like before today, right? And that's why like it's really important that we collaborate with one another and we look over each other's work and we try to identify things like that could possibly, you know, more than cause offense, but propagate sort of ideas and norms that we don't want to. Does anybody have any other examples? All right, well, this is what I wanted to go over for our live session. I also want to discuss more of the submissions for Module 1, but I know you guys haven't had a chance to do that. So next live session, we'll have to cram a lot more things in. But thank you guys for participating. It was really good to get all your opinions and get our thoughts out there.
I have a question, Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Since you have extra 15 minutes or so.
Yep.
What are the submissions? Like can you share some of the submission people?
Sure. Like I'd be happy to share if the people that submitted were comfortable with me sharing. So I can sort of give you guys an overview of what has come in. We've got, sorry, waiting for this to load. So we've got a piece coming in about racism and or stress. Maybe our artist can create the like bind the two together. Maybe there's some systemic institutions that create more stress because of racism, something like that. But they wanted to pursue visual arts, right? Because did you want to share? No, I guess not. I guess not. I'm not gonna out the person who submitted that one, but yeah. So we've got a really cool visual art piece coming in about that. We're gonna have it's gonna be very sort of powerful because you've got such a tactile, like, visual element to it. Maybe she'll go more into it next. Oh, okay. We're getting more submissions. That's great. Yeah. So we'll go more into it next. Maya, did you want to talk about yours?
I mean, I wanted to write a long feature about kind of systemic racism in the United States and how that kind of plays into the Black Lives Matter movement today. Yeah, and I guess I chose a long feature just because the history is so deep and there are a lot of like important nuances that, at least for me, probably would be best expressed in words, but of course there are other ways to kind of convey that. But yeah, writing is what I chose.
Yeah. And the great thing about writing is that you can actually go so deep into a topic. You can really pull at the threads of a certain idea in a way that sort of visual art can limit, because something very visual, it's just there, it's just out in the open, and the reader has to pull their interpretation of it, and it's left a lot to the interpreter, right? But with writing, you can make something as plainly clear as you want. You can go into a topic as deep as you want. And for a topic like yours, which has so much sort of history to it, you'll need a very flexible medium like writing to be able to pick and choose, what kinds of sort of important issues you want to talk about and what you might not have time for, because it's a really dense topic that goes back so long. Do you have any idea of like what message you're trying to get out there with the piece?
I haven't fully decided yet, but I guess the message is kind of that we still have a long way to go in terms of reparations and in terms of equality. But I guess that's kind of what I would want to convey.
Yeah, I look forward to working with you and fleshing that out. Zara, did you want to talk a little bit about yours? Ah, it's okay. we don't need to go too deep into the woods with everybody's. What else did we got? I know I got a lot more. But they don't seem to be in. Alex, did you submit yours? Might be my own page that's not loading. But yeah, those are sort of the issues we're tackling in our magazine. Looks like we're going to be most heavy on the civil rights, social equality, and systemic racism beat, which is great. And maybe we can try to curate some more original features and artwork around that topic, and maybe that can be a prevailing theme of our magazine. Not forcing anybody to pursue that topic in particular, but maybe be mindful of if there's an opportunity to integrate it into whatever you're working on, to do that, right? Because racism, we know, just it persists in every other social issue, right? No matter what other issue you think about, like COVID, the COVID disaster, homelessness, inequality, they've all always got some, racial undertones to it. So, if you can be mindful of that, I think we can have a very coherent theme running throughout all the pieces that we have, and it'll make our magazine stronger at the end of the day. Sorry, could I get a show of hands who had a chance to watch the module videos?
Wait, module 1 or 2?
Either.
I watched module 1.
How'd you get that? Like, where did you click?
I just, the video was embedded in the screen.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll try to get all the modules to you guys. Hopefully, they'll work out better than they have been. Does anyone have any questions on where we're gonna go from here?
I was just wondering if it was normal that there's only 2 modules.
Yeah, I thought there should be 3, no?
There's just
right
2
now?
modules available right now, and that third one will become available later today.
All right. Okay. And then the fourth one.
Yeah, as the course progresses, more modules will become available.
Yeah, the fourth one hopefully will be out for you guys tomorrow as well. It's okay to be. I don't expect you guys to be at the fourth one right now. Just it'll be out there for you guys to access whenever you want. You can go at your own pace. All right, so if you guys have any questions about anything that we're doing, this would be a really good time. I really want to make sure that you guys we can develop a strong focus for your piece as quickly as possible, so that each of the modules can help you get to where you need to go better. Instead of just teaching you the technical elements, we can embed the technical elements into your pieces as we go. And that'll be sort of a really efficient, strong way to go about this process.
Thank you very much, Lucas. I would just like to apologize again for the technical strife I have caused. Hopefully, you should be, if you're having any trouble accessing modules, you should be able to access those very soon. But in the meantime, before we hand over the floor to Rachel for her talk, I think it might be a great idea for everyone to just take a quick 5-minute stretch break if anyone needs to get up, get a drink, or anything like that. And we'll see you back here in just a couple of minutes, right at 2 o'clock.
Is everyone back? Okay. I think almost everyone. Yeah. So, I'm wondering, how many of you were able to go through the video, at least the presentation part? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Maybe instead of touching on like specific things within it, I'll just kind of give you a broad overview of what the presentation was basically about. So I focused on the Black Lives Matter movement. I focused on how art has been used as a vehicle to spark conversation in different communities around police brutality and things like that. And I also touched on, in the practice part, about how you can apply visual thinking towards like digesting art and digesting political art as well. Oh, sorry. Does anyone have any questions or comments about their submission so far? No? Okay, so just questions for the group in general. What kind of, so for those of you who actually like viewed the piece of art that you were supposed to dissect, like what kind of art do you guys want to create during this 2-week span?
I think I'm really interested in a lot of just anything really, like any mixed media or yeah, any visual things that I can use. I don't really know if you had an idea in mind or yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to leave it to you all to find where your passion lies. I believe Sophia was talking about like environmental issues in the last meeting. Like maybe like she could focus on that. Some people could focus on like systemic racism if it means a lot to them. I kind of want it to kind of flow a little bit with what you'll be touching on in the other courses as well. So yeah, there's plenty of different areas that you guys could focus on. But yeah, it doesn't have to specifically be one thing. But yeah, I'm just wondering, like in your current school system, like is the certain topic of systemic racism like prominent in what you learn in school, or is it touched on in any way, like in social class or English class or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, because before school, like when school was open, they didn't really touch down that. But if school were still open when like George Floyd's death happened, I'm pretty sure that there would have been a lot more classes on systemic racism and police brutality. So yeah.
I think for me as well, but our school was pretty like we touched on that a lot. We had many classes on it, so.
Oh, okay. And do you go to school in Canada?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Whereabouts are you from?
Pardon?
Oh, whereabouts are you from?
I'm sorry, my earphones are glitching. Could you repeat that one
Oh,
more
sorry.
time?
No, whereabouts are you located?
I don't think I understand.
Like, where are you?
Oh, I'm supposed to be in the States, but since because of coronavirus, I'm not. I'm in Rwanda, Kigali.
Oh, wow. Oh, are you Peter Vrooman's daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
But yeah, no, it's interesting that that kind of course material is available in America, at least to a certain extent. It can be taught to a certain extent, but like here in Canada, I don't know how many of you are based in Canada, but it's just the topic doesn't seem to be very prominent. But yeah, I think it's really cool to look into how it kind of like influences the way that we interact with education and also the way that we like interact with art as well. Let me see. How do you guys feel like as a student currently? I don't know where everyone's age range lies, but how do you guys personally feel how you can establish social change using your personal art mediums? Like even on a small scale. Or have you guys ever thought of that before?
I just finished my first year, so it's kind of nice that I'm getting a whole new sort of community of people who are like-minded in that way. And there's a lot of people who are very active, I've noticed, and I think that a lot of them have taken it upon themselves to start groups and clubs and places where anyone can come together and work creatively. Yeah.
And like, have any of you been involved in any like collective like arts projects or outreach projects?
I mean, I'm a part of the sustainability teams, so, but I feel like we don't necessarily like are art based. I guess we're more just like either organizing actions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, no, we did do an event where we I think we chalked downtown Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
And I think some people hung banners. So we do, yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing. Like besides like traditional art, what other creative ways do you guys think can be used to facilitate change? Yeah.
I think that there should be, like, once school starts again, there should be like assemblies for students to go to talk more about systemic racism, how to spot it, how to stop it. But it can also be used in art classes, though I'm not in art class, but they could use they can make different art, stuff like that, or they can make posters to put in the hallway to show like how to point out systemic racism, or through like theater, which is what I'm in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I think I would do that if COVID-19 hadn't happened. Yeah, I would try to suggest that.
Yeah, it's ruined a lot of people's plans, but I guess we just need to plan around it now. So like within the past few months, like, what's I gonna ask? So I guess like you were mentioning about things that have happened within the past few months. Like, how have you guys personally been like digesting all of this information? Because obviously like there's COVID going on. There's also like a lot of adversities, disparities that have been like highlighted. How are you guys personally digesting all of this?
It has been a bit hard on my mental health, but like because I haven't really seen any other people, this is really the only way I've ever been interacting with people. All of my extracurricular activities were canceled, so just like I think it's just really loneliness. That's the only way it's affected me, because like you know, I know that like everyone's in this together, but at the same time you're not, because you can't see other people, you can't see certain relatives, you can't see certain friends because maybe they have compromised immune systems or something like that. So yeah, that's really the only part that's affected me. I just don't really like staying at home all the time.
Same here. Same here. Anyone else feel the same way? Or yeah. Oh, Kieran?
Oh, I was just saying I've felt the same way. It's been, yeah. Also, the like wide variety of things that have been happening have been kind of overwhelming. I think there's times where, on top of being kind of burnt out and stressed and anxious about the whole pandemic, having everything else that happens on top, I think it's led to myself. I've been like extra kind of down sometimes, and I know a lot of other people have really felt kind of like a sadness or just an emotional toll that has been kind of, for lack of a better word, unprecedented. I feel like that word has been overused a lot recently, but yeah, I just think it's yeah, large toll.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. A lot of like alienation, a lot of slight helplessness, like not only for COVID, but also like with the Black Lives Matter movement as well. It's weird being like, obviously like these things happen here as well, but it's like I almost feel like as a Black person, like I'm looking into a community, even though I'm still a part of that community. It's kind of odd. It's kind of like we're peeking over the fence to see what's going on in America, but like we don't really see the calamity going on behind us. So yeah, it's weird trying to look at in two different directions at once. Like I'm looking at America, I'm looking back at Canada, and then I'm Nigerian and I'm looking at Nigeria, and it's like really hard to kind of find a certain focus. But yeah, at least in these times, it's like if you're around your family, that's really good. Like you can at least like engage in dialogue and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really weird time. Yeah. Does anyone have any like thoughts, questions, concerns for this exercise in particular? No? Okay. Quick question, like have any of you like encountered a certain medium of art that has challenged your beliefs or challenged your outlook? And it can be like visual or non-visual.
I definitely have. Yeah, I was listening to Rage Against the Machine the other day,
Nice.
right? And they're not making music about anything like brand new. They've been around like since the late 80s, I think, right? And the music that they have about like inequality and police brutality, the stuff they were like making music about in the 90s rang so true today that I realized like music and other forms of art, they can be like a real time capsule for the issues of a time. And it actually helps us see that very little has changed. We're still fighting for the exact same issues that they were. And it was really striking for me looking at music and art that way.
Nice.
I just
to add on to,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
One example to add on to Lucas is there's a song that I know that's really like accurate to today. It's by U2. It's called Sunday Bloody Sunday. Has anyone heard of it? Yeah, that's the like I listened to that song the other day and I'm just like, this is so relevant. So like you can check it out. It's really a good song too.
Oh yeah, I used to be a very big U2 fan, surprisingly back in the day. Yeah, when I was I don't know if you guys know, well, he's pretty popular, like Kendrick Lamar. He released an album about 5 years ago, and it's a weird title. It's called To Pimp a Butterfly, and it's basically about the Black experience in America and about police brutality and like all these other intersectional issues that Black people go through. And yeah, it's like really critically acclaimed and stuff like that. He didn't get a Pulitzer Prize for that one, but he got a Pulitzer Prize for the album after it. But that one it's still really relevant. It still holds true. That one came out when I believe Mike Brown died. And it's interesting listening back on it again and I don't know, kind of sighing because we're still going through the same issues that we did 5 years ago and 60 years ago and stuff like that. But it's cool to see how the art forms are changing and like morphing with the times. But yeah. Sorry, Eric, did you?
I remember I went.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're right, Eric.
I just wanted to say that David just shared a really nice quote in the chat for everybody from Jim Carrey. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. And I think that's really relevant to the discussion. And I wanted to thank David for sharing that. And to encourage people like David, if you want to contribute to the conversation through the chat, please definitely do. It's sometimes can be quite a bit easier. And you can put lyrics there. You can type in the names of artists or albums for this discussion, or the names of songs. We want to hear from you in any way. And the chat is a really great way to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Eric. Kieran, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just kind of wanted to echo something that many other people have said, but I remember seeing an exhibit at the MoMA many years ago by Adrian Piper, and it was talking about police brutality and racism in America. And there was a clip of Rodney King being beaten by police officers, and I was just thinking back to it, how reminiscent it is to everything that is happening today, clips that we see seemingly every couple of months now, or every couple of weeks right now. So it's there's a lot of hope in art, but it's also a lot of, it can be kind of sad and encapsulating the lack of change almost.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe a pessimistic way of looking at things, but it was just, it really had me reflecting on the longevity of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't know how much time I have left. But
I wanted to echo what Karen said.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, my daughter alerted me that there's someone insulted police on the street in Vancouver, and the social media kind of go viral, and then we had a family discussion. So the person apparently sticking out the middle finger or something like to the police, and then this person was really received lots of violence from the police at the scene. And my daughter was asking, isn't that awful? It's sort of a police brutality and plain sight. And then my first reaction was, I was wrong actually. I said, well, if you insult any civic officer, like a bus driver, you perhaps face some certain consequences. Like there's a certain, I thought there's some sort of rules that you can't really insult. But and then I check, I was wrong. We are all under the, I guess, the freedom of expression. Even insulting, apparently, it's protected. It's like that. Apparently, I was wrong. So.
Yeah, it's similar experience. It wasn't a video. I was actually walking, and my friend had an Airbnb around East Hastings. Obviously, that's an area in Vancouver that is kind of like riddled with drug addiction, crime, poverty as well. There were 3 security guards that were outside of this mall, and at this mall there was like a crosswalk, like an intersection of some sort. So I was walking my friend back to his Airbnb spot, and we were kind of like waiting to cross the street, and I see, I don't know, like a seemingly inebriated person kind of like yell at these security guards. Like, keep in mind, they're only security guards, they are not police. But the security guards were standing outside and smoking and probably not doing much. But this one guy who was like seemingly intoxicated was like yelled 1 or 2 things, and then he was drinking some beer, like an empty can of beer, and he threw it at one of their shoes. And so at that point, one of the security guards, like, he just went off, and he started grabbing the guy, and he just started punching him, and like punching him over and over again. And then the other 2 security officers like held him down, like held the intoxicated guy down, while the other one was punching him in the face. And I was standing there, and I was like literally like 2 meters away from them, and I was like, this is wrong. And my friend was trying to like drag me across the street, going like, just ignore it, just ignore it. And I was like, no, this is wrong. So then I just started yelling, and I was like, stop, 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 stop. Like, he didn't do anything. And it's like interesting seeing how like that behavior can get justified to a point where it's like, you can see somebody get beat up on the street and just not even really acknowledge it, just because like we're all kind of like socially conditioned to respect people who are in uniform, no matter like what kind of uniform it is. So yeah, but after I told them stop, they actually left the guy alone. But it was like, if I wasn't there, or if I just didn't say anything, what would have happened to him? So it's interesting, like realizing your power as well, like as an individual, to actually like, you can actually intervene, not necessarily like physically, but like you can use your voice if possible. And I kind of want to take that energy and channel that into art. Like, how can you use your voice to communicate what you believe through art? Yeah, sorry for the rant, but yeah. Besides that,
No, I think what you said, I was just gonna say, I think that's so important. It's, I mean, a lot of kind of talking about racism is just about speaking up and using any sort of voice. So I think art is a fantastic medium for that as well. And just, you know, because some people might not be comfortable talking directly to someone. I mean, obviously you have to get out of your comfort zone, but if someone's doesn't want to physically approach someone, then maybe they could take part in their own certain way.
I think like
I think it's kind of,
yeah.
Yeah, that's, so I don't think it was a rant. I think it was a very good point there.
Like art can be just as impactful. That's what I'm trying to get across. It's like when, especially like during this time where everyone's inside, like when everyone's pretty much like kind of plugged into the internet or plugged in at some form, like you have an opportunity to reach out to your immediate circle or beyond that as well.
I just had a quick question that popped into mind that I thought maybe would help everyone appreciate the importance of sharing our voice through art. Could everyone put their hands up who's seen firsthand someone in a position of authority of using that authority? And then could you put your hand up if you've maybe like heard about it from a friend or like heard about it from someone else who was directly there? And then could you put your hand up if you've just heard about it in general? Maybe you saw it on the news or on the internet, and it wasn't, you know, maybe somewhere where you were right there and you could intervene, but you've heard about it? Yeah, so it seems like a lot of people have their hands up. So I don't know, Rachel, but like it seems like your module and your lessons are going to be really important just because of like how many people have seen this and wish and want to use their voice to stop it.
Yeah, but that's all I have for today. Thank you, Eric. And yeah, thanks everyone for your comments. The assignment is still available on Canvas, so yeah, just fill it out. But yeah, I'll pass it back on to you, Eric.
Thank you. All the stuff is still up on Canvas. There's module 1 and 2 for every course. I believe I have fixed the access issues, but if I haven't, that is awful. Please send me an email through Canvas or send me an email to my personal email. That's where you've got the like the reminders that there's a Zoom invite. But yeah, if it's not fixed, please let me know. But if it is, hopefully you should all have access to modules 1 and 2. And we're really hoping that you get a chance to work through those this week before Friday so that we'll have a chance to talk about those. And hopefully, if they're out, you should also have a chance to talk about what you've been doing in module 3. But moving on from there, I think we'd like to give Kieran a chance to talk about what he's been preparing and what he's done for his modules.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Just kind of to start, I know that we have had some technical difficulties, but just want to know, like, how, like, were people able to access this module? Were there access problems for this too? Can you just put your hand up if you were able to access it?
What
Okay.
was it called? Because I'm not sure if I was able to.
So it's just a module 1. It was the so it's FLAP 202 Resilient Cities. It seems like we have had some issues though, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people unable to access this. And I was just wondering how people found the module. Did you find that you learned some things? Do you have any burning questions just off the top?
I found it, the video at the beginning, I think, was it a Washington Post video that was embedded? I can't remember, but that one was
or New York Times
really striking for me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I really appreciated that one. It was yeah, I had never seen that, so it was really informative. Yeah, thank you.
No, of course. I mean, I think that, you know, this module really kind of reflects the changing spatial nature of our lives right now because of COVID. How, you know, the home has really taken on a greater role, and private space has become so much more influential in our lives as coronavirus has grown. And also we kind of talk about how different populations have had very different experiences across the pandemic. So again, I'm going to touch on some stuff that is talked about because I feel like some people weren't able to access, and I know there's a ton of stuff to do. So that's totally cool, and happy to answer any questions kind of moving forward if you do want to check that out. But so we talk on like the idea of placemaking and how normally it is done in the public, but you know, because of our current situation, it's actually been happening also in the private realm, which has been interesting. So I'll just kind of for the very, you know, the sake of not everyone having access, as I said, I'll just talk about placemaking really, really quick. So it's a process and practice where it allows people to kind of collectively like reimagine and reinvent public spaces kind of as the heart of communities. So it strengthens connections, like spatial connections between people and places that they actually occupy, and kind of inhabit. But if sorry, I got distracted there by something that popped up on my screen. But it's all about kind of redesigning place in a collaborative process to really capitalize on community assets and their potential, and just design spaces to really be for people and contribute to health and happiness and well-being. So really important part of this is kind of collaboration and participation. So how to decide what's important for the community and how it changes and reflects that. So it seems like many of you did not get there, but an interesting method of placemaking and deciding kind of engaging discussions and discourse is photography. I'm a photographer. I've found myself almost inadvertently using photography in a form of placemaking during COVID. So it's been really kind of an interesting process to think about it very much from a placemaking perspective. But it's kind of a way to allow people who live somewhere to really visually represent the space around them and visually represent problems or things that they find positive and engage in a discourse around that. So with the assignment, did anyone get to the photography assignment? All right, well then, I guess more broadly then, is anyone a photographer or does anyone enjoy photography? Okay, cool. And why do you enjoy photography? If you don't mind me asking.
I think it captures a lot of different aspects, and it's an art, so you can do so much with photography. I've taken a few courses on photography because my mom does photography, but I really there's a lot of things you can do with photography, so that's why I like it.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's really amazing how kind of diverse it is and the variety of things that can be that can come from it. I know, there's often a focus on kind of commercial photographers with photojournalists, but I think the placement making aspect is really, really fascinating. Have you ever, not to not pick on you, but to focus on you, but have you ever kind of considered using photography to impact social change or kind of focus on social justice?
I've seen photographers do it. I haven't really thought of myself doing it because I only really started getting interested this year. But now I definitely think about it more.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting medium. Like as kind of Rachel, and through the conversation with Rachel, I was just thinking about how it's captured such incredible periods and such a fantastic way of kind of immortalizing what's happening in the world. And it's been so vivid during COVID to see images being spread around and kind of better understanding what's happening around different countries and within different groups, and with people being affected so differently, really having this visual representation where it's so often difficult to understand kind of what's happening with other people. And I mean, for myself, I've become very fascinated in how I actually interact with space and how I perceive places and how the relationship that I have built with place because of photography. I'm not sure if anyone else that's used photography, if they've felt more connected to a certain space because of having used photography, or is that just me? Marina, I saw that you said that you have done some photography.
Well, I think it's how the things that it can like hide, but also sort of unveil in a way. I think there's it's a new perspective on something, and it can again make it can definitely give you a different view on a space or something that you might not have picked up on. I think it can highlight those sort of things. So
Definitely. No, I would definitely agree with that. Anyone else? Sorry, anyone else? Okay, so one thing that was covered in this module is that while we have kind of affected by COVID, there's been very, different populations have been affected very differently. I mean, I know personally for me to be at home during COVID was, at times it felt kind of like the safest place to be, and then at other times it felt like a small prison almost. So life has really been oriented around kind of working at home, being on a computer, socializing through a screen, and with what has happened with kind of private space, it's also made my interactions with public space. Normally I would kind of walk around, meander, go talk to someone, spend time outside. Now it's very pointed. Like I'll complete a goal, then I'll run home because I'm somewhat scared of contracting COVID. So, at the end of the day, I'm able to go home and I'm able to have space where I have a computer, I have, a TV, a yoga mat, I can exercise and spend the time I need to take care of myself physically and mentally. But, there's a large subset of the population that's really not been so lucky. So if you think of kind of certain groups that have been impacted very differently, you can think of kind of maybe like the elderly, as we've all seen across, mostly in the States and Canada. There's been a huge crisis in care homes, long-term care homes, the homeless. I mean, it's evident, a very vulnerable population, and people who are kind of living in poverty or in a precarious financial situation. Those with substance abuse problems and people in abusive relationships have all had very difficult times with this constriction of private space and what's been happening. So I just kind of wanted we can either do this in like breakout rooms. I don't actually know how to do the breakout rooms. So Eric, if you could help me with that, I think that would be kind of good. Or maybe no, let's do this as all together. So I just want people to kind of consider different kind of populations and people. How do you guys think that the elderly or seniors have been impacted by this kind of encroachment of public space and being forced inside?
Well, it is harder for people who maybe live further away from their families. Like how you hear people say like, oh, I'm going to retire to Florida, I'm going to retire to Hawaii. If they actually did that, then they're far away from their families. They aren't able to see them. It's hard to contact them because of the distance and stuff like that. So I can understand why they would be more lonely. So yeah, I think loneliness is a big factor in how the elderly community is affected by COVID-19.
Just while we're having this conversation, it would be really great if everyone would come off of mute so we can just share ideas as they pop into our head. And I was just thinking, a lot of people who are older might be on fixed incomes, and so that for many that might mean living in a smaller space and traditionally relying on parts of the community as part of their living space. But now that that's not available, they might be in a much more cramped housing environment.
And the other thing, not all seniors are familiar with technology. Like I know because of COVID, many have started as a huge curve, and not everyone can adjust to these ways that we can all use to connect and feel less lonely. They don't always have.
Right. I mean, I can attest to how lonely I was feeling, and how impactful having like FaceTime, or I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the app House Party, which is a ridiculous app, but anyways, it was actually a very helpful thing for me during periods of isolation. And yeah, the fact that a lot of people, as they're older, they struggle with technology. It's like it's devastating for their ability to connect and for people to check in on people, you know, especially in care homes. It's really, I know it's been really scary for people who haven't been able to reach their mom or their father, you know.
We also shouldn't forget the people who can afford. I mean, be able to stay home is at this time is a privilege, and those who are essential workers, they don't have the private space now. They are so we also take it into consideration that people who are more exposed to COVID. In fact, Filipino population in California has the highest risk of infection, which combination of obviously the living arrangement, but at the same time, by default, by occupation, they're more exposed. Yeah. So,
Right. Yeah. I also wanted to talk about people who are in a more of a precarious socioeconomic space, because I know, as you guys, if you were able to view the slides, there's a pretty striking graph that shows, you know, housing density and the occurrence of COVID, and it's very related often to levels of income, and there's a much more high occurrence in kind of smaller spaces when people are cramped and might be forced to live in tighter apartments with maybe multiple families. It makes social distancing really tough. It makes quarantining really, really tough. So yeah, I mean, does anyone have any thoughts? Thank you, Keiko, for leading to a very nice bridge into my next question, actually. If anyone has thoughts of how kind of people who are living, you know, below the poverty line or in precarious economic situations, how this may have affected them a bit more, just because of the way the spatial nature of the virus.
I think about like people who are incarcerated and how like COVID is running rampant in jails right now. Yeah, that's like, I think I read something the other day that I don't know whether this was in California or something like that, but they were letting some people with lighter charges. They were releasing them from jail just because they didn't have any more space and COVID was running rampant. So it's like, it's really interesting to see how it can easily manipulate the judicial system in America, like how this has impacted it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think some people, especially immigrant workers who have less enforceable workers' rights, they've been forced to go back to work in very crowded factories. Like, I think there was a meat factory or something in Alberta or something, and there were a lot of COVID cases, but people were still forced to work there with a lot of people with no masks.
Yeah, it's really that's a great point. Like, it's really highlighted a lot of kind of labor laws and labor regulations. I know in Windsor, in Ontario, there was a huge outbreak of COVID in I can't remember what type of factory, but in a factory the same as you just said. Like, it was because people were being forced to work. They didn't know if they're going to have enough money to buy groceries or whatever, and it just really has shown a big gap in kind of social protection in the country. So anyways, just by kind of talking about this, I just want to get you guys.
Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to break off into kind of three groups, and I'd like to kind of subsect of the population that may have been impacted a little bit differently. So I want to kind of break into these groups and consider how different people have been impacted differently, and how we can design space to better accommodate the different needs of these populations, and how we could include these groups of people in the discussion around space and redesigning the space, and how space can be kind of redesigned to build the community. Sorry, my internet's kind of cutting out. Did you hear me?
I wonder we still hear the static noise after you change the.
I think that's just my computer is quite loud. And my headphones, okay. I'll don't buy AirPods. Is that better? Better? Worse? Okay. Well, did you guys hear what I would like to do right now? Yeah? Okay. So Eric, if you wouldn't mind helping me, I would like to break up. We have 16 people here. If we could break into 3 groups, that would be lovely. So just think of how, so the first group will be thinking about kind of people living in precarious economic situations. The second group will be thinking about the elderly, and the third group will be thinking about the homeless. So I want to kind of have each group think about how each kind of population that they are kind of considering, how they have been impacted differently. And then also think about like a community space or space around you and how it could be redesigned to better accommodate kind of different needs of people and help people in this situation. Does that make sense, everyone? Could you give me a thumbs up or something? Okay, cool. Thanks. It's sometimes tough to tell. Eric, do you mind splitting the group? So we'll take about 5 to 8 minutes. Let's do 7 minutes so that we can talk about it a little bit after.
We're
How
just
do you do
talking
that?
about like maybe we can make rules for the factories to have limits, like how many people. So there will be like stricter rules to limit the numbers, and so there will be more space for each person to work. So it's like distant. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, stricter enforcement of rules in private spaces and greater funding for public spaces. You know, the issue is that people that take public transit don't have a lot of space in buses and trains and stuff like that. So the government needs to help them have more buses and more trains. It'll be wealth equality that solves this issue, unfortunately, because it's very difficult to implement systemic change like that.
Yeah, so thank you for kind of taking part in that. Did anyone have any, I know that it's a lot to think of these big kind of changes, and especially in the world with the way it is right now, the uncertainty, but did people kind of start to consider some potential modifications to cities and to the space around them? Somewhat. I know I came into the, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I was part of the homelessness group. So we were talking about like how some of the key issues were that they couldn't really get news, the shelters were crowded, and they couldn't get like protection supplies. So space-wise, we were thinking ideally there would be more shelters or more space in shelters, although there probably wouldn't be enough funding for that. So maybe more viable would be getting masks to them and possibly having a place to donate masks. And in terms of sanitizers, we were thinking we could have either government-funded place for just washing your hands or sanitizing your hands, or maybe like businesses can take the initiative and put something outside their doors that people could use on the streets for homeless people. And
yeah,
I think that was the gist of what we talked about.
Yeah, those are great. And I do, does anyone else have anything they want to share? I do see we're kind of running out of time a little bit.
Sure. For our group, we
I
talked
kinda-
about lower income people, and we said that private spaces need a lot more enforcement. So we want to encourage the government to enforce, distancing rules in places like factories. And for public spaces, places like public transit and stuff like that, the government just needs to increase funding and help cause like areas that can create more distancing. More affordable housing would go a long way in helping lower income people spread out.
Definitely. Okay, so I think we have reached the end of this session. Eric or Keiko, is there anything that you had, or Trinity or anyone, is there anything you guys would like to add?
I would love to hear what people come up with for elderly people.
We talked about like people who live in like separate housing, so like old folks homes. I touched on like one of my friends who works in she's a caregiver in an elderly space, and she's very like apprehensive with like how she interacts with people outside of her workspace. She's like very scared of contracting COVID and then passing it on to someone who's older. We also talked about like the loneliness that a lot of the elderly are experiencing right now, like more than usual, because a lot of them already felt isolated from their families, but now it's even more so, where it's like they can't even really interact with them the way that they'd like to, or they can't even interact with their own friends. I think, what else? Nicola mentioned something, or was it Maya? Yeah.
Well, what exactly was it? Is there any keywords that we remember?
How do you mitigate that? Did you guys talk?
I don't remember. I totally lost my train of thought, but it was basically about how, yeah, you were saying like your grandfather wasn't able to
Yeah.
like navigate. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather, he lives alone, so he doesn't really gets to really interact with the rest of the family that much. And well, he did come over while I was in this meeting. He had to wear a mask. You couldn't like hug each other, so we had to do like an air fist bump. That's his thing now. So I think that like it's really a lot more difficult for other elderly people, like I was telling everyone in the group, because they're living in their last stages of life, like Maya said, but like they want to spend that time with their families, but they can't, to use technology in a way that they can understand it, to see and interact with other people that they can't interact with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yes, thank you everyone. And if you the module, or if you do end up wanting to go through further discussions or the assignments, feel free to reach out to me if we don't kind of go over it again. I'd love to kind of hear what you come up with and what you find.
Oh, I also like to put it out in case people may have some idea for the next time we meet. What would you like to do? More presentation from the course leader about content, or maybe possibly debate, or maybe possibly journal club type of activities. Yes, we have all kinds of ideas, but if you prefer or suggest any format, we would like to hear from you as well. Back to Eric to conclude.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Thank you everybody for being here today. It was really nice to see all of you. And it was great to hear the contributions from everybody. That the Flat Fellows here are what makes the flat program a program. Otherwise, it's just the 5 of us talking, well, the 6 of us talking to a wall, and really that's no fun. So your participation here is so important and so meaningful to us. So thank you guys so much. I just wanted to apologize again for any access issues might be having with Canvas. I sound like a broken record, but I think I have them fixed. But if you're continuing to have them, please shoot me a quick email or contact me on Canvas, and we can see what we can do to get you done with your modules. Otherwise, our next live session is on Friday, same bat time, same bat channel. And it would be really great if everybody had a chance to look through modules 1 and 2. And just as a reminder, we've changed the grading structure, so there's no more grades for any of the assignments. In fact, you don't necessarily have to complete them, although we didn't just put them in there because we thought it would be funny. But yeah, we want to hear from you in the discussions, but they don't need to be a whole thesis if it's feeling a little daunting, because in some of the modules, there are lots of questions we want to ask because we really like hearing from you. But most of all, we want to make it not feel daunting or stressful. So if you've got any further questions, please contact me or your course leaders. Otherwise, I will give you to Trinity to say the final goodbyes for today.
Yes, everybody, just once again, thank you so much for coming in and to this live session, as well as participating in our program. We hope to see you next time. And if you have any feedback, anything you'd want to do, more small groups, less small groups, more games, whatever, here for these live sessions, feel free to drop a message or something for me and Eric. And we'll do our best to try to make this fun. We could definitely send out a survey form. Very good, Sophia. Smart. Okay. We will do our best. And yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
I'll thank all of you.
Thank you.